AJ Roberts.
Dan.
I've known for years, AJ Roberts.
Oh, where is he?
AJ Roberts, he's one of your friends.
Yeah, he's a big friend of mine.
Yeah, he's in the army. I've known him for years. Yeah.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, I watch yours all the time. Just trying to get a picture of you.
Oh, 1 second. I'm just going to get the broadcast live again. Hello, folks.
Thank you so much.
You're just joining us. Yeah, just... Sure, 1 second. I'm just... I think there's loads of data down. Just live feeds on... We're back on. 1 second. We're good. Right, good. We're good to go. I'm just going to pop that here a sec. That falls down there, there's a problem there. Right, sorry, 1 sec. I need to put this somewhere I can... It's not really designed for it. Back en route, let's go. Dr. John Rodgers in front. Let's see if we get a word from John in a moment. When we interviewed John last year, we had around 150,000 viewers when we interviewed Dr. John Rodgers, retired GP, on the reasons why he's attending the protest. Become a good friend of mine, lives in Bristol. Hopefully we'll get a few words from him again in a moment. How many people are here? I've got young Dan Astin-Gregory here. Good to say hello. Good afternoon. Good to see you from home. If you're not here, why not?
Yeah, you see all you people watching from home, but it's a lovely atmosphere. Loads and loads of people. All with the same message. We're better together, that we want freedom. We want our choice. All the things that as a GP for 35 years, I've made sure that my parents were all aware of, that they could choose how they use their bodies, and they could choose what they did with them. They weren't forced to do anything. And this idea that you can force people without consent, without informed consent, and informed consent means you must look at what are the problems, what are the risks, what are the benefits of any given treatment. Every single treatment needs benefits and risks assessed. And we're not hearing that. All we're being told is that the COVID vaccine is safe and effective. And there cannot be a person on the planet who doesn't know that it's not completely safe and it's certainly not effective. It is just, it's so frustrating that we have to come out on the streets of London to say, enough is enough. We want our freedom back. We want to be able to travel. We want to be able to meets, congregates, without the ridiculous idea that you have to have a vaccine passport or some other idiocy. So yeah, so I'm having a great time here. Lots of people, as you can see, and I'll probably do another one in a bit. Have a lovely day. Bye.
John Rodgers, Dr. John Rodgers here. John, when you were
Hi.
I just caught a year on, John, when I met you for the first time.
Yeah, it's not quite an anniversary. I think it was October last year.
It was, yeah.
Outside Primark, if I remember
right. We
rightly.
met just outside Primark of all places. But we recorded a video there. You shared why you were at the march. You know, you retired GP. That video went on to have 150,000 views within 24 hours.
Wow.
What's changed? You know, so 1 year on, what do you think has changed over that time?
Well, in some ways, everything's changed because it's become clearer and clearer that this is not about the virus. It's, you know, a seasonal respiratory virus does not cause this sort of amount of control and power grabs and overreach by government. So it appeared at least March, April last year, it did seem like maybe we needed to protect the NHS. But, you know, 18 months on, there's absolutely no reason why we have to behave in a certain way to protect the NHS. The NHS does not need protecting. It literally doesn't. It's people that need protecting. And most of all, it's our children that need protecting. You know, we've got this, the JCVI announced 2 weeks ago now, children should not be vaccinated. There is no clinical benefit to the child, and the benefits are so minimal that really there's no reason at all, and the risks are substantial. All the evidence coming out of myocarditis and so on. So literally, they recommended to the government that they did not start vaccinating children, and yet the likes of Chris Whitty basically say, oh, but we think it will be a benefit to their education. We estimate that it will give them 15 minutes more time in the classroom. And you think, what planet are you on? You know, it's just the idea that you're putting experimental vaccines into children, vaccines which would, you know, are on trial until 2023 by Pfizer's and Moderna's admission. They are, you know, we're in early stages at the moment of a rollout. And, you know, we've given it to millions of people. We have a situation where we don't know how safe they are. And even the MHRA is not really responding to requests for information. We have over 1,600 deaths recorded shortly after vaccination in the UK. But they're not saying, oh yeah, we've checked each one, and they're not. They're just saying, oh, it's probably just coincidence. You know, I cannot imagine in my 30 years in general practice that we would have disregarded 1,600 deaths of people from a medical treatment and say, oh, well, it's probably coincidence. You know, most of them died within 24 or 48 hours after the vaccine. That's at least according to the American vaccine data. So literally, you know, as Dan, I've heard Dan say many times that there is the difference between causal and association. Yes. And this is basically, you cannot say that it causes it, but you can say that there is a temporal association, and we really should be looking more closely. So yeah, it's great to be here. It's a wonderful atmosphere.
It is indeed.
We're all heading down this way. I've been told by several of the police where we're going, so they obviously know. I guess it's no longer secret. Yeah, it's just great to see so many people, some wonderful placards. You know, yeah, it's just an amazing day.
So one thing I want to say, and obviously you're a retired GP, undoubtedly, you know, administered many vaccinations or immunizations during your time. What do you say to the fact that, you know, you shared some information there around the safety and efficacy of the vaccine? What do you say when people just simply retort that this is an anti-vax movement? You know, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I've given many thousands of vaccines over my career. I'm certainly not an anti-vaxxer. I believe, in fact, even with the COVID vaccine, I think there may be some people who benefit from it. I don't know. It's difficult to tell amongst all the propaganda, but it does seem that if you're at high risk and you've got comorbidities, there may be an advantage to having a vaccine. It does seem to reduce your risk of hospital admission and death, which is hugely beneficial. But if your risk of hospitalisation or death is 0.005, then to change it to 0.00, yeah, it's really. Want to have the vaccine, you should, but it needs to be with informed consent. That is, you've discussed what your personal risks are. What about your family history? Have you got any family? With the knowledge that we have now, as a GP, I would be talking to people and saying, on balance, yes, you should have the vaccine, or on balance, no, you shouldn't. And we've done that for 30 years with flu vaccines. Flu vaccines, we sort of used to go around and you'd say to someone, yeah, you benefit from it because you've got this disease, this disease, this disease. If you get flu, you're more likely to end up in hospital. Perfectly reasonable, but the flu vaccine is an awful lot safer than this new experimental mRNA vaccines. So I cannot understand. It's a lazy way of dismissing people by saying, oh, they're anti-vaxxers, as if they're sort of some lesser species, some alien that should not be listened to. And we've got to get to a situation where people are respected, no matter whether they choose to have a vaccine or not choose to have a vaccine. But that choice should be informed, and that's my absolute, it's why I'm here. I want informed choice, I want bodily autonomy, and I want medical freedom. And we're losing those, and people don't seem to realise. They think, oh, if I just get vaccinated, I then just have a passport, I can still go back and travel. No, you can't. If you've been fooled if you think that just because you've been vaccinated, you're going to be able to go on holiday. It's the restrictions, the booster jabs, which are unnecessary, but I would imagine 99% of people don't need a booster jab. You cannot, and yet you only hear one side on the mainstream media, which is crazy. I've always believed in debate and looking at questioning everything, as Dan would say.
Yes. Well, I think, John, the thing for me is, informed consent is important, but given that lack of debate, lack of transparency around the data, the censorship, any information, even its official data that's deemed discouraging, that could discourage someone from taking the vaccine, is wiped off social media. So how can informed consent exist when people don't have the facts? The politicians don't even have the facts. How can informed consent exist under those conditions?
It can't. Unless you have both sides of the story, unless you've actually weighed it up, unless you're able to discuss the pros and cons of a treatment for yourself. If you can't do that, then you cannot give informed consent. And the idea that people are queuing up because they get a free donut, or that they can go on holiday to have a vaccination, which can completely alter the rest of their lives. So literally, the stories I've seen of children and young people who've had the vaccine thinking they were doing the right thing. They're even told that if they have the vaccine, they're protecting their mothers or grandmothers, and that is not true.
Well, the other side of the coin, John, is the risk of COVID-19. Again, the same problem exists. But we've got 18 months plus of data now around hospitalisations, deaths, any prolonged symptoms. But there's still this general assumption that everyone is at equal risk from the virus. How do we begin to change that perception?
Just keep repeating it. COVID is one of the most age-graduated diseases in history. In other words, it almost entirely affects the older person. Now, I know we get reports saying a child died and so on, but literally the number of children dying is very, very small. I think it's 99.999% of children survive COVID. It's vanishingly small. The child has got much more chance of being knocked down by a car, sadly, than that child has of dying of COVID. So we literally, whereas if you're in your 90s and things, then the death rate is perhaps 10%, 12%, 15%. But I hear of old people who basically believe that if they step outside their door, they're going to die. It's absolutely outrageous. The truth is that they could go outside their door, they could hug every person they meet, and they would still survive. And not only that, but they'd have a happy retirement.
Indeed. Thank you, John. So Dr. John Rodgers there, retired GP, featured on the Pandemic podcast 12 months ago now, nearly 12 months ago, and great to see him here again at the protest. I cannot believe that I'm still here a year on. The situation still is continuing to evolve. These issues continue to perpetuate, and people say, well, we're out of lockdown now, we don't need to wear masks. Well, that may be true for this moment in time, but if you look around the world, the situation changes very rapidly, and it's really, really, really important that we recognise that winter is coming, and in the winter season, people's immune systems are compromised. People are get less outdoor time. People socialise more indoors, where respiratory conditions tend to prosper. So the reality is we need to learn of a better way to move forward with this, rather than really revolving doors of lockdowns, which people think have vanished in history books, but they're look around the world, they're not. So it's really, really important now that we start to realise that these mechanisms, lockdowns, for instance, have radical impact upon human health. Adverse impact. You look at the record hospital waiting list now. I shared some of the statistics on a recent broadcast. Astronomical impact on human health. Astronomical impact on the economy. Astronomical impact on children's education, their mental well-being. We cannot keep going into these cycles. We have to treat this thing seriously. Yes, we do, for those who are at risk. But we need to look at it pragmatically about how we used to look at flu and other forms of circulating illnesses. And that certainly doesn't involve lockdown. So we're at the precipice of going into autumn and winter. It's still lovely and warm here in London. The sun's not shining today, but it's really important to recognise some people are going to have challenges going into winter. But the NHS, as always, will have challenges going into winter. We know that the NHS every winter struggles through those winter pressures, and we can expect those multiplied this winter, again due to lockdowns, because people haven't been able to see their GP. People still can't see face-to-face GP, get face-to-face GP appointments, get routine diagnosis, routine treatments. So again, during that winter season, we're going to see an enormous pressure from the usual winter pressures, plus potential issues surrounding COVID or some of the issues surrounding vaccines, but then the long-term effects of what we've seen through lockdowns. And again, the conversation has already begun around future lockdowns, and we have to get out of that cycle. So. We do need to be planning to live with the virus as we live with the flu, as we live with colds. We cannot eliminate risk in society, but the reality is we've started to, over the last 18 months, develop this cultural aversion to risk. This cultural is really, really an extension of what we've seen over the last decade, but really amplified in this period of time, where people have got become almost morbidly obsessed with risk to a point where some people are wearing 1, 2, 3 masks, full body suits. It's got out of control. But this is down to impure, false health information. Facts. Go as far as saying fraudulently presenting facts, which is just damning. And regardless of your position, COVID or lockdowns or any of the politicized elements of the pandemic response, one thing we can all agree upon is that we need transparency of information. And I can question after question that we simply do not have answers to. We had Professor Norman Fenton present at the Lockdown Summit. You get a question IO to see that footage, a full day's worth of material. There's one thing that we can all see, is that we don't know how many people have been genuinely affected by COVID-19. We don't know how many people have genuinely been hospitalized with COVID-19. We don't know how many people have lost their lives sadly due to COVID-19. We don't know if they've been adversely affected by vaccines. We don't know how many people have been actually benefited by vaccines, because all the information has either not been collected, it's been misrepresented, it's been withheld, censored, and we cannot operate. You know, if I was to run my business with no information about new costs, marketing expense, my business, and imagine a pilot flying a plane, and then again, pilots largely run on autopilot, but you know, if you had to make decisions flying a plane without knowing your altitude, how much fuel you have, what speed you are, the distance from the destination, how can you fly that plane? Yet here we are managing this pandemic, the government's managing this pandemic without accurate information. And the politicians know this, well, some do. You know, some are asking questions saying, well, you know, where can we get this data? I spoke to my MP asking for this data, and he said it doesn't exist, we can't get it. Thanks. But we need to get this information in order to be able to get an accurate assessment, because when we actually do, we'll see that this has been egregiously overinflated, significantly overinflated. The burden on hospitals, the burden in terms of mortality, massively overinflated. And that's unforgivable, given that the campaign of fear that has followed that is completely unforgivable. You know, people have been psychologically traumatized by this experience. People are, you know, we've got a mental health crisis to follow this particular situation. And it's going to take some people years to recover mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. But fortunately, there are people amongst us, like everyone here today, who are willing to take a stand and say, no, enough is enough. There is a better way. And we must demand the truth. We must demand answers. And I'm one of those people here reporting on the situation.
We've lost people all over the shop. We've kept Val.
Well done, yeah.
Richard!
I mean, this is close to the front now. I can hear the drums.
We're here. Looks okay. We are. This is amazing.
On Vauxhall Bridge.
This is so amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry? No, not at all. Absolutely.
So I'm here with Sonny Morton. Why are you here today?
Hello.
What brings you here today?
Because I believe in standing up for what's going on in the world right now, and it's going on here in England, but around the rest of the world, and that is the authoritarian, whatever you want to call it, but it's against our freedom, really, and whether you've been vaxxed or not vaxxed, whatever you believe on that side of it, this is against our freedom of choice, right? And it is really that simple. It's like, do you choose to live in a world where you can think, have a freedom of thought, or do you want to be ruled by what the mass media, what our government is telling us? And just think inside, just go deep inside and realize, is this right? That's all I'm asking myself. Does this feel right? It's a simple question. Ask yourself this question. Does it feel right that we're jabbing our children at the age of 12? Does it feel right that we're pushing people into jabbing, because if not, they won't be able to go to a nightclub? I mean, that's just like, it's ridiculous. So all I'd say, Dan, is I'm here supporting you, supporting everybody else, and supporting my freedom and our children's freedom going forward in this fight for our freedom. And every one of you, listen, I was there watching this on Facebook a few months ago, thinking, gosh, what am I going to do? How can I stand up? Just come, be here, be part of it. It's a great atmosphere. And it's lovely to be around like-minded people. We're not conspiracy theorists either. It's just, being around people that are sharing a lot of love.
And you've got a background in health, and you have a real passion for natural health. You know, what the impact do you think some of these policies have had on people's health over the last 18 months?
Absolutely massive. The biggest impact it's had on our health is what it's had on our mental health. In the end of the day, you know, we can all take care of our physical health, but our mental health, what we're being fed through watching the television, through the media, through what the government is telling us, it can have a massive effect. And, you know, people are scared of going out their houses. I know my mum and dad, God bless them, they're up in Newcastle, and, you know, they don't understand this because all they've known is the BBC. all they've known is whatever they tell us, we believe, right? Whatever they tell us, we believe. Question that belief, because fear is the ultimate thing against our health that we have. It can affect everything. It really does affect our health.
Thank you, Sonia, and great to see you here today, and great wise words. This has had a traumatic effect on so many people, and it's someone asked at the seminars that recently, have lockdowns made you feel safer? And no one said they did. That's the reality. These things have been done for safety reasons, yet actually it's not actually led to any point where people actually feel any safer. So I'm just going to take a short break. We're making our way now to the final destination, I think, on the march, and I'll be back very soon. So please do subscribe to the show, danjgregory.com/pandemic, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be back live very, very shortly.